Found a new life here in the north after being shot 6 times in his home country. The Tour of Britain rides back into our region. We're live from Blyth, where the latest stage ended this afternoon. As the Queen celebrates a record-breaking reign, we look back at some of her more memorable visits to the north. The former soldier on a mission to track down all his old comrades from nearly 60 years ago.
In sport, congratulations to Yorkshire. With a little help from Durham, the Tykes have won back-to-back county championship titles at the home of English cricket.
He escaped from Syria after being shot 6 times. Now Bashar al-Damgha has begun a new life here in the north. Bashar paid traffickers thousands of pounds to make the dangerous 3,000-mile journey from his homeland to the UK via France, and now has refugee status in this country. Well, today it was announced that 120,000 additional asylum seekers are to be homed in the EU. It comes after a surge of people pushed north through Europe this week. Jonathan Swingler has been to meet Bashar, who described the full horror of life back in Syria and how he was forced to flee in desperation.
Almost 3 million people have fled across Syria's borders to escape the civil war. Our country is to take up to 20,000 of them over 5 years. Bashar is now safe in Newcastle and says he's lucky to be alive. He owned an electrical shop. Then President Assad's regime attacked his town.
The bombing started, and I've been hit in my leg 6 bullets, and I think 50 people died and 120 people injured as a result.
His wife and 3 young children are currently in Lebanon. Bashar told us he paid people traffickers $15,000 to get into a lorry. When he got out, he was on Tyneside. The first thing he did was head to a police station to say he'd arrived from Syria. Many asylum seekers come to the North of England refugee centre first for help.
Normally we find people in the morning and it's quite obvious that they're hungry, then at least we bring some food to them to feed them, and also sometimes they turn in the winter, they've got not the right clothes at the time, so we'll make sure that they've got access to or they've got the right clothes on.
If you're seeking asylum, you'll need legal advice. We spoke to one North East specialist who's critical of the process.
In my view, the system doesn't work very well because there's no legitimate route for refugees to come to the UK. People have to come here illegally, really, to claim asylum, and that means that the traffickers benefit, but the people become very vulnerable. Really, a better system would be to have an international system to monitor people outside the UK first, so they don't have to come here illegally.
Our region is known to be welcoming people. I mean, you're talking about a long history in that, most recently the Bosnians. And I think probably the region can benefit from bringing people in.
Bashar now has refugee status, a relief after 17 months in the UK. But this week, there's news from home. His nephew was killed. His family posted pictures of his body on social media, wanting the world to witness what is happening.
One of his family members being killed yesterday. He's just driving his car, and he's got 6 children.
What's happening now is described as the largest movement of people through Europe since the Second World War. We can expect more arriving in our region from Syria.
A very moving story. Well, Jonathan's with me now. As you said in the film there, Jonathan, Bashar now has refugee status here, but where does his life go from now?
The most important thing for him is to be reunited with his family, of course. So he's got his 3 children, his wife and his mother out in Lebanon, as we heard, out still there at the moment. He spent an absolute fortune, most of his money, trying to get to the UK, but wasn't able to bring his family over. I get the impression, talking to him, that he never wants to return to Syria again. That's just been ruled out, I think. What was interesting, to go to the north of England, north North of England refugee centre, is that so many Syrians were turning up there in the reception. A lot of them are asylum seekers, of course, so they didn't want to talk about their cases, but they'll all want to get this refugee status. And we're hearing about quite a few on Teesside as well.
OK, Jonathan, thank you. That was appropriate, a false start there. We're on to the Tour of Britain cycle race because it returned to our region today after a brief visit to Scotland. The riders set off from Edinburgh at 10 this morning on their way through the borders and then along the Northumberland coast. They finished the latest stage of the race at Blyth this afternoon. Well, our cameras and reporters have been capturing the fun and colour of the event along the route. So let's go live now to Blyth, where Mark McAlinden can give us the rundown on the day. Mark.
Well, Carol, yes, a very good evening and a very warm welcome from the town of Blyth. Now, it was here in the heart of the town just a few hours ago that thousands gathered to enjoy the carnival atmosphere of the Tour of Britain. Now, they watched and waited for the riders to arrive here after they'd set off from Edinburgh earlier this morning. Now, in a moment, we'll look back on the momentous finish here in Blyth. But first, Phil Chapman caught up with the race a little further north.
Just a